Okay, let's start example questions about composition of trig functions. Question number 29, sine or cosine. Sine or cosine, so we can use this rule, f of f inverse of x equals x, when x satisfies domain of inverse sine. Domain of inverse sine is between -1 and 1. Domain of inverse sine is between -1 and 1. So 0.7 falls into these two numbers, right? 0.7 is between -1 and 1. So the answer is x, which is 0.7. Okay, number 30. Tangent, arctangent, we can use same composition rule. So if 35 satisfies domain of inverse tangent, the answer is 35, right? What is domain of inverse tangent? All real numbers, right? 35 is real number. So the answer is 35. Okay, 32. Sine arc sine -0.1. Yeah, same format. F of f inverse sine arc sine. So if -0.1 satisfy domain of inverse sine, the answer is -0.1. -0.1 is between -1 and 1. So the answer is x itself, -0.1. What about number 33? Arcsine sine, which is inverse first, right? So f of inverse f of x is equal to x only when x satisfies range of inverse. So if 3 pi satisfy range of inverse sine, the answer is 3 pi. But what is range of inverse? What is range of inverse sine? Range of inverse sine is between -pi/2 and pi/2, right? But 3 pi is out of the range. So the answer is not 3 pi. No, answer is not 3 pi. Then how can you find the answer? We should find the value of sine 3 pi first. What is the value of sine 3 pi? Sine 3 pi is 0. So it's like finding arc sine 0. Arc sine inverse 0. Set up k, switch x and y to go back to the original sine function. Now we can use k as angle, right? Between -pi/2 and pi/2, which is range of inverse sine, what k value, what angle k can satisfy this equation? K equals 0 because sine 0 is 0. So the answer is 0, not 3 pi. And then 34. Arc cosine cosine, arc cosine cosine. All right. This is the second composition rule case. So if 7 pi/2 satisfy range of cosine inverse, what is range of cosine inverse? Range of cosine inverse is between 0 and pi, right? If 7 pi/2 satisfy the range of cosine inverse, the answer is 7 pi over 2, right? But 7 pi over 2 is way greater than pi, so the answer is not 7 pi over 2, which means we can't use this rule. And how can you find the answer? We should find cosine's value of 7 pi over 2. What is cosine 7 pi over 2? Cosine 7 pi over 2, pi over 2, this is pi over 2. What is pi over 2 plus the 2 pi, which is coterminal angle? 2 pi is like 4 pi over 2, right? So pi over 2 plus 4 pi over 2 is 5 pi over 2, right? That's 5 pi over 2. And what if you add one more pi? 2 pi over 2. 2 pi over 2 is pi, right? It's like 7 pi over 2. 7 pi over 2 is here. 7 pi over 2. So 7 pi over 2 is coterminal angle of 3 pi over 2. What is cosine 3 pi over 2? Cosine 3 pi over 2 is 0. right? Cosine 3 pi over 2 is 0. So this is 0. So it's like finding arc cosine 0, cosine inverse 0. Set up K, switch X and Y to use cosine. So cosine angle K is 0, between 0 and pi, because the range of cosine inverse is 0 and pi. Which angle K can make cosine 0? K equals pi over 2, because cosine pi over 2 is 0. So pi over 2 is answer.